We've been talking about authors. Authors of books write books for different reasons. One reason that they write books is to try to persuade us to do something. Another reason is to entertain us. Today we're going to talk about how authors write books to give us information. If you look at the poster in the middle, you will see 3 books. On the first book, you will see that the author gives information about knights. In the second book, it's about tornadoes. So in this book, the author gives information about tornadoes. And on the last book is Hottest, Coldest, Highest, Deepest. The author gives information about many different places on the earth. So we're going to read a book today called From Beans to Chocolate by June Schwartz. And as we read, think about what the author is trying to tell us. Why did the author write this book? Okay, so here we go. From Beans to Chocolate. And here we have the table of contents. Chocolate for a treat at the shop in molds from cocoa nibs, from cocoa beans, from Cocoapods, from cocoa trees to make life sweeter. And there you can see all the different pages that you can turn to find out about these headings. The first heading is chocolate for a treat. I know a lot of people that like chocolate. Angie bites into the smooth dark chocolate. It tastes very creamy and oh so sweet. The delicious chocolates are a special gift from her dad, and they are a great treat. But where does her dad get the chocolates? Up at the top here it says follow the steps. Chocolate? Question mark. Okay, so we're going to at the shop is the next heading. Angie's dad goes to the chocolate shop. He thinks about Angie's favorite as he looks. Some chocolates are ready to scoop into bags and some are already in fancy papers. There are many shapes and sizes, but he knows just what to buy. Down here it says, but how are the chocolates made in different shapes? It says, follow the steps. Again, chocolate, shop. Now what? Down here you can see in the little sidebar, there are many kinds of chocolate in a chocolate shop. In molds is the heading. Warm melted chocolate is poured into molds of different shapes. When the chocolate cools, it hardens and keeps its shape. Workers pop the hard chocolate out of the molds. Then the chocolates are ready to pack in boxes. So there is a label. There you can see the molds. And it says, but where does the melted chocolate come from? Another question. So it says up here, follow the steps. Chocolate. We found the shop. Then we found out about the molds. But where did the melted chocolate come from? Chocolate comes in many shapes and sizes, is what this caption says under this picture. And again, here is a label. It says this is another mold. Now you notice this is like a rectangle mold, and these are circle molds. So you have chocolates of all different shapes. Here's the heading, from Cocoa Nibs. At a factory, hard little cocoa pieces called nibs go into a machine. Whir, whir. You can hear the machine grinding the nibs into a paste, but it's still not smooth enough. So the paste goes into another grinder until it's even smoother. And here you can see the labels to help us. This is a grinder. This is the paste coming in. But where do the nibs come from? And here is a label. This is what nibs look like. So, and down at the bottom here it says sugar. Chocolate paste is bitter. It needs sugar to be sweet. So if you just put chocolate paste in there, it's bitter. I don't know if ever any of you have ever eaten chocolate cocoa. It's pretty bitter. Anyways, here's chocolate, shop, molds, and now we learned about nibs. Now what? Where do the nibs come from? That's the next question we're going to try to answer. The title is From Cocoa Beans. The cocoa beans have hard outer shells that hide the nibs inside. Workers heat the beans to remove the shells. The whole factory smells like chocolate cake or brownies when the cocoa beans roast. Yum! So now we know that the nibs come from cocoa beans. And here they are labeled. There's the bean, and there's the shell, and there's the nibs inside. But where do the cocoa beans come from? So here we've got our steps. We got chocolate. We know it came from a shop. We know that the shop had molds before it came to the shop, and then it came from nibs, and then it came from beans. Where do the beans come from? The beans are heated in a roaster that turns them so they don't burn. So there's the beans, and there they're being turned so they don't burn. Well, the heading is from Cocoapods. So beans come from Cocoapods. The beans are inside Cocoapods. A worker splits open a ripe pod with a whack. Sweet sticky goo and beans ooze out. The beans stay in the goo for a while until their flavor and color changes. Then the beans go into the sun to dry before shipping. So there is the pod. Here is the bean inside the pod. Here's the goo inside. But where do these pods come from? That's the next question. And right here you can see the label beans. And here you got chocolate, then the shop, then the molds, then the nibs, then the beans, then the pod. And where do the pods come from? So we're following the steps. And down here it's showing us a caption under the picture. Heavy bags of dried beans are shipped to the factories. Right here, that shows a picture of that. Now the next heading is from cocoa trees. So that's where those pods come from, the trees. Cocoa pods are fruit that grows on cocoa trees. So you can tell your parents, yes, chocolate does grow on trees. Cocoa trees grow in hot, rainy places, and farmers pick the pods by hand. Cocoa farming is hard work. The next question says, but why do people grow cocoa beans? Oh, cocoa trees, sorry. So first of all, here's our steps. Chocolate, shop, molds, nibs, beans, pods, trees. And the caption says it takes a lot of pods to make a chocolate bar. The question was, but why do people grow cocoa trees? The answer, I think, is up here in the heading, to make life sweeter. Almost everyone loves chocolate, that's for sure. We don't need it to live, but life is a little bit sweeter when we have chocolate to eat. And you can see this girl enjoying her chocolate. Look at her face. Oh my goodness, is she enjoying it? More about chocolate is in the back of our book here. It says, cocoa trees grow best in shades under the taller trees in a rainforest. Growing them this way makes it harder for farmers because they have to work around all the taller trees. But it's better for the cocoa trees. Healthy cocoa trees grow lots of cocoa beans. And the very back of our book, it says, a sweet chocolate treat. Some foods go through many steps before we see it at a store. Find out how chocolate gets from a tree to a chocolate shop. So we just found out all the steps that it takes to get to the store. Lots of different steps.